We are Øyedrops. We're an Oslo-based motion studio, and we've been doing it for 10 years now, so we thought we would tell you a little bit about how we started out, and the projects we've done along the way. We'll showcase a couple of them, and tell you a little bit about what we do now, and with a little bit of how we made some shots from the recent films. So my name is Chris. I'm one of the founders of Øyedrops. On a day-to-day basis, I work as a producer, art director, and do design, some animation. Running a small studio, you get your hands dirty on a lot of different things. Me and Steffen, who's going to introduce himself shortly, we work as a team on concept development for all our productions. So first of all, I'm going to show you our latest demo reel so you can get a feel of what kind of work we do. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So my name is Steffen, and I'm the lead motion designer and also one of the founders of Øyedrops. And as you probably can tell by the last name, we're brothers. So my journey with video and motion started back in 2002, playing with Adobe Premiere. I then discovered After Effects around 2005. I got into Cinema 4D around 2008. And I tried a few other 3D applications earlier, but cinema felt refreshing, modern, and had an intuitive and smart approach to it. So around that time, the community was growing very fast. A lot of people were moving from After Effects into Cinema 4D, and After Effects was starting to feel more and more like a comping, grading, and finishing tool rather than the main software to create content with. Resources like Maxon's own University, MoGraph.net, and eventually Grayscale Gorilla helped make a steep learning curve possible. And blogs like Explosive.tv and Motionographer was huge inspirational sites, and studios like Psyop, Buck, Stardust, and more were considered the rock stars. We felt like we were part of something new and exciting. So the first years from 2002 to 2007 was spent doing music videos, art shorts, and so on. And then in 2008, me and Chris did our first freelance commercial project together.
Ready to take the lead. Please do not forget, it's not about what you need, but what you kill to get. I'll give you what you want, be like you want me to. Anytime, any place. Anything that suits you. You can make me number one someday. If I use the factor, it's okay. You can take it high, you can make me fall. I'm super special. Hey!
Yeah, so okay. So this is mostly done in After Effects, but there's some elements from Cinema 4D in there as well. But this project was pivotal to the founding of Øyedrops. Our skills was getting on a level that we thought maybe this was something we could make a living out of. And so we formed Øyedrops. We found ourselves a little office space in an old school. And one of the first projects we got was a music video for an event. The client's brief was initially to film this on set, but we pitched to do it all in 3D, and the client actually approved it. So that summer was spent diving into Cinema 4D and making this video. This was probably around Cinema 4D release 10. Discovering the magic of the cloner objects, blind wrap, and the other deformers felt very refreshing coming from the restricted 2.5D world in After Effects. And it doesn't look like much now, but at the time our ambitions were high. We then got our first broadcast project for TV2, the biggest commercial television network in Norway. So the task was to produce 4 5-second items, build upon themes like drama, entertainment, and show. And this is all done in Cinema 4D and rendered with the standard render. And here we have been playing with Cinema for about a year, so it's quite easy to get creative with this software pretty fast. And this time only grading and some minor effects was done in After Effects. And the client was so happy that they booked us for another 10 items. Yeah, so we continued to explore more tools in cinema, such as creative use of the hair module, meta balls, the particle system, and more. So the challenge is always to stay relevant in terms of style and technique, but also solving the client's vision in a smart and engaging way. So usually we start with a basic idea or a concept, then we design frames and animatics. And then in addition to meetings with the clients or the agency, we repeat this process until we are happy with the direction and all the elements. So now we started to get a good reputation among the local agencies in Oslo, and one of them came to us with a Toyota pitch. So the brief was to show 3 different cars with different sets of abilities, and this quickly became a prestige project for us, nailing the car gloss, the low poly look, and the paper animation that was a big hype at the time.
Okay, so after we did that project, more of the agencies in Norway saw our work. We got lots of work, and we started doing a bit more detailed and realistic 3D. We hired some more 3D people and concept artists to work full-time. And what you show on your website gives you makes what you get of jobs. So we started getting more jobs that were realistic looking. And after doing quite a lot of these more realistic, in our opinion, looking 3D shorts, we got more projects in live action and VFX. So then we were moving into a direction where most of our work were doing post-production for other production companies, or eventually starting to film stuff and being more of a production company ourselves. And we did this for a couple of years until one day we were really busy booking crews and everything for a new production, and me and Steffen kind of just sat down and said, who are we? What do we want to do? Our portfolio was more or less only live action stuff, and the recent projects hadn't even any type of VFX or graphics in it. So we thought about at what point did we have the most fun, and really we realized that back in the early days when we did design-driven animation, that was what we thought was what was the most fun. So we decided from that day that we would be a motion design studio, and when you visit our site or social media pages, you would be met with motion design. So we got rid of everything in our portfolio that had any live action in it, and we kind of started a little bit from scratch. We also agreed that we would use Cinema 4D as our main tool, and instead of hiring people locally, where we were kind of bound to the software they used in terms of skills, we then started looking all over the world to find freelancers and stuff people that we could work with that had the skill set that we needed but used the same software as us. And lastly, we decided that we had to have some kind of a mission. We need to find something that differentiates us from other studios. And at the time, we really didn't know what that mission would be, but we thought it would be important to find that. The next project we got was for a TV show called Newton. I'm going to start with playing the intro. So that was something really different from what we have been doing for a long time, and it felt fresh. We wanted to do something around the flat graphic style that was popular at the time, but still we wanted the 3D look, so we did it all in cinema. And we also wanted to try out X particles, so it's our first real X particles heavy project. But the most important thing that happened when we did that project was not really the style that we did, but more we delivered it, and we thought about the fact that we have done a lot of this project over time, that where we deliver TV show packages with intros and supers and loops and backgrounds and everything, and we thought that there must be a lot of companies out there, bigger brands that are now on social media and YouTube and everywhere that kind of needs a kit for these types of medias, but don't have any rules at all. So we kind of just came up with this plan that we would call it Motion Identity, and we would just we'd try to sell it in and build our new projects around that mentality, that we would try and converting that 50-page PDF with all the rules that all these companies have with any like typography, colors, logo, everything you need to make like a magazine. Then we would try and be like a complementary thing to that, where we could do animation. So the next project we got was for an event, and we then decided that, okay, let's try this out. So we, of course, did an intro. I'll play it. Okay, so we delivered that one, and we delivered all the stuff I said before, like loops and backgrounds and supers and stuff. But we also delivered it in folders and Keynote templates and everything, so that the event had all the assets they needed to do next year's event without calling us. That's not the best business plan, but of course, the agencies that we worked with at the time felt that was a great thing to have, and so they started calling us for lots of new projects. So we didn't get too much, what do you call it, more business on the same project, but we got a lot of new other projects. Okay, so we found we had a good plan there, but we didn't have a lot of horsepower to do all these broad deliveries at the time. So we had a setup with 32 cores on local nodes, and we expanded that with a new rack with 240 cores. And that gave us more flexibility in terms of design process and everything, but still, when we want to work as far up to the deadline as we can, spend every day refining and refining. So we wanted to find a way where we could not plan like a week ahead to start rendering, but start rendering just like a couple of days before. So we found Sync, and from the 240 cores we had, we now had more cores than we could count. And Steffen will talk a little bit about Google Sync and how we use that.
Yeah, so Sync Render is a render farm and storage service from Google, and you can download a plugin from their site, like a client app, and I think you get like a $300 render credit when you sign up. And from there you install the client app, and it prompts you for your plugin for your 3D package, and then you get like a plugin directly inside of Cinema, where you launch your projects to the cloud. You can choose between different types of machines, how many machines you want to render the job, and how many frames you want each machine to render. So it's as fast as doing a local render, and it downloads automatically to your local folders or to the cloud. This is the web browser interface where you have your progress and you can view the logs, and you have billing and everything directly built in. So it's super easy and fast, and we have used a few other render farms also, but we like this one in terms of price and how effective it is working day to day. So this has helped us quite a bit. So we ended up with like a 3-step render setup. So we have the single CPU render to picture viewer, and then we have our 240 local nodes team render to picture viewer for R&D and design and some shaded animatics and tests. And then we have the sync render with infinite cores for master rendering and the heavy tedious renders, but also the good quality quick animation tests for when you go a bit out in the project. So yeah, and we are moving into new offices this summer, and then we're planning to move all our assets up to Google Cloud with a VPN connection. You can get all recent assets available from the office or from in meetings or everywhere. So everybody's updated all the time. So that was a quick look at the last 10 years for us. And we now felt that we had both the infrastructure and the plan for moving forward. So we're going to dig into a couple of recent projects and how we worked on them. We're going to start with Eliteserien, which is the National Football League in Norway. I'm going to play the intro first.
So this was a perfect project for us to test out our plan. The Norwegian Football Association contacted us about doing just an intro, but we wanted to do more. So we looked at their graphic identity, which was brand new at the time. And we went into research about what have they done in the past, what's trending. This is going to last for at least 5 years before they make something new. So we had to try and come up with something that could be work okay for the next 3, 4, 5 years without being too dated. And we also tried to find some types of materials that we could work with that we felt complemented the football sports. So we decided on working with fabrics, cloth, and that gave it the team and flag perspective, but also we went in with some steel elements to give it a more tougher look. Yeah, so that is the look, and that complements their graphic look in a good way in our view. So then we had a pretty vibrant kit of assets that both worked on broadcast for intros and so forth, but also for partners and promotional assets and posters for social media and everything. So it became quite a broad kit with all the assets they needed. And after we did this one, they liked it a lot, so we did the second highest league, we did the national team, we did the women's league. We've been working a lot with football over the last couple of years, and half of our studio don't like football at all, so that's kind of strange for them, but that's a large part of our income. I'm going to say a little bit about how we started out with the intro. So we were invited to the pitch, and we weren't even though we had an idea where we wanted to go, we didn't have like any way of communicating that for the client before we had a meeting with them to present our first idea. So we wanted to have some kind of abstract look, but we were afraid that not having football players in the football intro might lose us the job. So we also included some football players that were brought down from, is it Maxon it's called?
Yeah, the animation files are from Maxon and the players are from cinema stock. Yeah.
So this is the first version. We presented that and told them that hope you like it. We can totally do the football player direction if you want, but we hope you're not going to do that and go for more abstract look. And thankfully they agreed with us. So the next version we did. We now felt we had a direction that was working. We still needed to refine many of the scenes, and we also felt that there were a couple of scenes that weren't working at all. So the next version is like starting to look like the final thing. So many people like working with drawing out a storyboard at the beginning of a project and just make each scene and deliver it, we can come up with a scene like a week before delivery, and that ends up in the final thing. So we can often be like refining and refining all the way as much as we can and try to play with a lot of things. We now felt that we had a look that, or an idea that worked. The scenes were great. We just needed to refine. So for the next couple of weeks, we just refined each scene step by step until the last thing. And yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so like Chris mentioned, one of the key points in this concept development, we decided on the cloth. And we had an idea of the reveal of the logo at the start. And we wanted to use also the cloth and the idea of a big flag representing the teams to collide. And then we have the full logo with the typo in the end. So this is done in the cloth module in Cinema 4D. And when you see in the manual, there is actually quite a lot of character tips on how to use the cloth module, but you could actually use it also for a lot of other creative scenes. So this is the reveal. The logo has a 45-degree angle, so we wanted to use that. So we made like a gap for the cloth to reveal itself from. So it's a quite easy setup. It's a kind of a two-step setup. So you need obviously the cloth, you need some belts, and you need some colliders. So this is a plane with a cloth tag attached to it, just a default. And here we introduce two cubes with a cloth collider tag for the cloth to intersect with. And with the cloth module, if you want the cloth to do something very specific, you need to manipulate it with the right tool. So you can use the belt tag and belt objects to the cloth to move it around. But you can also use all the particle effectors like wind, turbulence, gravity, friction, and all that. And there's also built-in gravity and wind into the cloth tag. So you have quite a few options to use and manipulate the cloth. So this was like the first step. So here's the initial state for the intro scene. And this is the step 2 where we pull the belts to each side to reveal the logo. And you see there's a lot of more subdivisions in this plane than the other one. And that gives us a lot of details and wrinkles in the cloth. We also introduced a displacer deformer to give the cloth like a more initial movement before the belt started. So this is the final simulation. And this is the cam setting. I'll talk a bit about the shading. It's mainly just a color map and a displacement map. This is the default cinema material. And this is the color map in the color channel. And we wanted to get influence from soccer shirts and the fine, there's always these details, these small holes or this breathing technology, I guess, that they have. So we added some small tiles also from the surface tiles to introduce some, like to help sell the shot. We had some backlight in the luminance channel to have some lights come in from behind, and then we used the woven cloth module in the reflectance to enhance the fabric look of the cloth. And then there's the displacement map, which adds a lot of detail and helps sell that last realism bit. So that was the intro for revealing the logo. And then we did a tear in the middle, which represents two teams colliding. It's like to the end of the intro, kind of like the peak point. And this is also done in the cloth module. So we use the same approach with the belts to get the cloth to do what we want. So this is the spheres that we belt the cloth to. And this is the default cloth setting. So the idea is starting to show, but it needs a little refinement. So here we have introduced more iterations to stop the cloth from stretching so much, and also the drag function, which kind of looks like the cloth is underwater. It gives it more resistance. And to get the cloth to tear, we introduced two wind deformers in the middle that kind of blows the cloth away from the middle. And what it actually does is it stretches the cloth a bit. And when you apply the tear, you can say when the cloth enters 150% size, it will tear apart. So that way you can control when and where the cloth tears. This is the final render with physical render in cinema. And this is the master used in the intro. So it's just minor grading done in After Effects on this shot.
Okay. One more project. We were approached by an oil and gas logistics company that wanted us to make like a 1 or 2 minute film about what they do. And they had been doing live action things before. But we wanted, they came to us, of course, because we did animation, and we wanted to do something that was not the classic technical direction on a logistics film, but more like make it look a little more arty and modern in the look. So we wanted to use a lot of X particles to make it feel technological throughout the film. So we built it scene by scene, explaining a little bit about what they do and how this logistics software works in keeping control of all the cargo stuff. Okay, go for it.
Remember when logistics was a time-consuming and cost-generating effort? Or when accurate information on a cargo's whereabouts was a guessing game, and not even the operator had the full overview? Today, we welcome you to the future of oil and gas logistics, with a logistics software that knows the exact location of all cargo and personnel at all times. Developed by people with years of experience from the energy sector, a system that connects everyone and everything on a single digital platform. An intelligent software that provides reliable answers, not frustrating questions. A connected world that allows you to control your logistics from anywhere, at any time. At Wellit, we know the future of oil and gas logistics looks amazing. After all, we've been busy creating it for years.
So I'll talk a bit about that brain scene in the middle there. Of course, the client wanted to tell the audience how smart this software was, and we thought it would be a good idea to introduce the brain and show some kind of interaction between technology and the human side of the software. So this is the initial brain animation. And this is a module in X-Particles called Electrics. And it's kind of like what you have in the tracer object in Cinema, but it has a few more settings to adjust. So what we've done here is we've spawned particles on the first frame that doesn't move, that's still, and it's attached to the brain on each side and to the logo in the middle. So there's two sets of electrics actually here. Then we had to make it a bit more interesting, so we introduced a trail deformer, which waves the splines. And then we used the bulge deformer in the middle to get that height and to make the composition a bit more interesting. Here we've added some details with the cloner object, where we use the electrics splines as a profile for a cloner object, and you just adjust the rate, and they travel along the splines. This is added background. The swirls is done with X-Particles, and those bleeping hexagons is done with the cloner object and a shader effector, which scales them with the hard contrast, so they pop in and out frame to frame. So this is the raw render from Cinema, render with the standard render. X-Particles is more of a friend with standard than physical. It's quite a bit faster, and you don't have to pump up the settings as much to get like clean lines and clean particles. And this is the master comp, and you can probably tell it's going backwards, and this was one of those discussions you get with the clients that you have to adjust to, and yeah, it works anyway, so yeah.
Okay. That was a couple of like bigger projects on our side that took a couple of months to do, but we also do a lot of smaller projects that are more of a couple of weeks' works. So we thought we would show one of those. This is for a clothing chain called Urban, and they were building this new store, and they wanted to have screens in the store that would show some abstract graphics to give it a hip and cool look. So we made some animations. If I can play it, yeah. So that had a lot of different scenes that could loop on screens in the store and stuff. Steffen will show one more.
Yeah. So I'll talk about the first scene with those sweeps coming out of the tube. So this is the initial modeling with the tubes and the fence-like structure, and here is maybe an overlooked feature in the soft body setting, where you can make instead of having one object being squishy, you can have like a whole set of clones being attached to each other, and you can do also cloth-like scenes with that. And here we have used it to make like sweep NURB with some watery toothpaste kind of attributes. It needs some more refinement, so we adjust the soft body settings a bit, and then we get something like this. And the setup is you have emitter spitting out spheres, and you use the emitter as a profile for the cloner object, and the spheres are dynamic with the soft body tag, and then you trace those spheres with the tracer object, and you sweep it with the sweep NURB. So it's kind of a three-step setup, and although it's not all the way liquid simulation, it sells the effect quite good in this shot. This is the master render from Cinema.
In between all these different projects we do, we try to make as much time as we can for trying different techniques and stuff and testing things. And we have started posting some of those on Instagram. Before we just it ended up in a folder somewhere. So we do quite often a lot of these tests to learn new techniques, and that I think that's quite fun for the people working at Øyedrops to try different things and not to have this strict deadline thing, but can do it when they want. Also, when we do a lot of things that are more abstract, we try, of course, to implement that into the commercial projects that we do. And I'm going to show you a hairspray ad we did. So we actually had a couple of meetings with the client, and we felt we were on the same wavelength and doing what they wanted. We had some hip-looking shots. We had a 3D rendered hair in the end and everything, and that didn't work out at all. So what they had imagined was quite simpler. So the final spot that aired was this one.
Define hårspray.
Yeah. So that was, I think, a couple of weeks' works, and then just start from scratch, and we made this in 3 days. So we got paid, but and the client was actually happy in the end. But I think we ended up posting the other one on our website. So yeah, just gonna end with showing our latest production. It's for it's football, this one also, but this is for the esports division of the Norwegian Football Association, and we're probably gonna get a lot of esport work in the future. It's a booming business, so I'm gonna play that one. Yeah, I don't know if I mentioned it, but all the sound on all the projects we make is from our own sound department. So we work with an in-house sound designer that we can have working all the way up to the hour before deadline. So that's we like that more than have someone off-site. Okay, so that's us. Hope you enjoyed our first presentation ever. Thanks a lot. Is that it?
Okay.
Questions?
Questions?
And then, I don't know if you have any questions for us. Yeah.
When do you start working also with the music and the sound? Because this always is a very important part of the animation. So for me, it's always very, very early at the beginning because it's giving the tone and the speed. Is it the same to you, or how do you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually it's about finding like the tone of voice with the film. So it can be either our music guy makes something with the art direction from the director, or we can just find something on Spotify or stock to like make some sketches and sketch out like the tone of voice of the spot. And depending on what kind of project it is, it can. It's often much simpler to visualize and to start animate the animatics to a BPM or to a beat and to like the So that's one of the key points to having our in-house sound guy. Either way, if we find something online that we like or he spits out some sketches early, we can have the music in from the very start of the project and then refine it as we go along. Yeah.
And often, like on the Eliteserien project, that project actually ended up with some big name band getting hired in from the Football Association to do it. But when we worked on it, because we couldn't wait till they were done, because they were done like a week before, so we actually made 3 or 4 different versions of audio before we felt we had something that worked, and then we kind of made the film to that, and then we got the final piece of music, and then we just edited that music to work to our BPM. So we try to be as flexible as possible and give our sound guy lots of freedom to test out new things, and even if it's a really small project, we try not to go to stock audio, but make our own every time.
Yeah. Any more questions?
Is the oil company, like, is it them directly coming to you, or is it like their marketing, or do they have an ad agency coming to you, and how do you keep like your integrity in saying like we develop our own ideas, like, you know, it's fine, we want a brief, but we want to develop our own stuff?
Yeah, so the client has a small agency of 2 people or something down in Stavanger.
Yeah.
And so we were mostly in contact with them, but also with the client. I think the client and the agency developed like a script. So they had like key points where they wanted to show like there's some problems with how a lot of the logistics work now. So we got to show that first, and then we're gonna show like we have the solution for you. So that's like the big point, and then you have like sections where you have like the helicopter and the boats. Everything is connected, and all people and all goods and all service parts being shipped out. So we had to like take the script and then visualize like every step of the script. And as for the visual look, I think we got that all.
I think they had some. They wanted to do it in a animated style, but they didn't have like a really idea of how to do it. So we came up with some references, or we made some style frames for how we thought it would be done. And everything we've done with football, and I would say like 50% of our work in general, we work with clients that don't have any, or agencies that don't have any, they don't come to us with something that you want it to be like that. They come to us and say that we want to make a film, it's going to be with this, what do you have any ideas for how we could look? And then we come up with the look. I think it's partially because they know us and know know what we do, and partially because they're tired of us telling them that that's not the way to do it. You should do it like this instead. So we work, I would say, 50-50 with agencies and clients directly, and even though that might change to 25% this one or 75% from year to year, we mostly decide the styles we do from scratch each time. In the first 5-6 years, they always came to us with like a film saying, we want you to make this, and like you had that finger tutting film, and we had like the discussion in-house, do we want to do that, because there's like 5 different famous films that does that, and now we can move more in a direction where we control stuff that it's trendy, but we don't have to like copy anyone else. We can find our own thing, as we try as much as we can at least.
Yeah.
Was that an early direction for you to hire a sound guy? Has he been with you long?
Yeah, I think he's been with us for, what is it, 7 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been with us for a long time, and it's actually like in the beginning we worked with sound designers elsewhere, or the agencies had some regular sound designers that they used, and we felt that we didn't have the control over the sound, and then we knew someone that was like he played every instrument in the world, and we just asked him to try out making sound for us for a couple of projects, and I think we felt that was a fantastic freedom to have at an early stage. Just from if I get a phone call about a new project, I can bring the sound designer in around the table from the beginning, and that we've been working with off-site sound designers a couple of times, and some are really good. Some are like you just show them a reference or something and they get it. But many times you want to iterate and change, and then it can be quite costly for us to pay the sound designer to make a new version, and yeah. So we've been doing that for many years. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Okay, we're out of time. We have to stop. You can ask us online or something. I don't know. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.